Okay, we're live and we're going to start our third meeting, I guess this is, and on the Great Hall Shitlords project. We have with us right now, maybe we'll get people later, Real Raven, Severy Rose, Sergeant Bonkers, and Boris, also known as Dave Sidious. So I think he's a fucking Darth Lord or something, I
We've got another name today.
don't know. Let's just kind of try to do these in order that we get them in, because we've got a pad we're working for. The audience can't see it, but the first thing that I wanted to talk about is the proto stage that Steel and Fire was working on. And Dave, did you get to talk to her about that and find out where she's at or anything like that?
I did. We had a limited conversation briefly about it, where I gave her access to my testing server if she wanted to use it, and she seemed to basically have everything in hand. I didn't want to step on anyone's toes, so I just sort of said, just let me know if you need me to do anything.
Okay.
And that's where it's left. I haven't heard from her since.
I haven't either, and so I'm thinking, and I put it in here in this, are we at the point that we think that, maybe she's too busy or she's having issues? I think what we need to do is come up with a line of succession to get the proto stage type done. And we can make up that decision if it's time to do that later on this week if we can't hear back from her. And then
how about I can just go ahead and build something? I mean, I don't mind doing that, and if she comes back with a better thing than I have, 10 sound.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds good to me. You might want to contact her one more time before you put in any kind of sweat work, see where she's at. Does anybody have an objection to that? Because we're talking prototype stage here, and
no, not at all. Build away.
Build something, yeah. I want to get my greedy little Jew fingers. Well, these aren't Jew fingers, but Christian fingers on something. So that would be.
Oh god, Jews gave me PTSD.
I don't so much disagree as want to take part in the scratch prototyping.
Okay, there's Dave. He's got his kind of own tables that he's been working on. So guys.
I'd base the prototype around your tables because that's the one that sort of people seem the happiest with. Should I say? I don't know. My tables are just speculative based upon the proposal. It's not like I'm saying this is what tables we should have.
Okay.
I prefer to start collecting the data in the way that you initially thought it should be collected, and then we can expand on it later.
Right. Model should always be separate from business logic.
Right. And if you two want to work on the prototype stage together, that's fine. I don't have a problem. Yeah. If you guys decide you can't work together, then you can develop your own.
Well, from the stuff Sadie's been saying, probably a better coder than me. So feel free to take lead.
Yeah. And just if you would kind of include me in the loop of that after you guys have reached a consensus, or what you think. That way I'm not unduly influencing you, and I will just kind of be the spokesperson for that as much as I can on the wiki or things like that if you guys are busy. But the quickest way to do that, I think, is just to get on the Discord server when we're on and I see Dave's on, and I'll just like, hey Dave, or Sevi, can you jump in a channel and let me know what's going on so I can update folks, because I get fucking questions every day, and they take hours and hours to work through sometimes.
Guys, a question. I know I kind of tried to keep up with the first meeting, and Tom and me had a kind of a secret meeting that we forgot to record. Did everybody or anybody look at the hashtag prototypes topic in Discord?
Hashtag prototypes.
This was when Raven made a suggestion. Oh, goddamn! We were on 3 hours, I think. I don't know if you got.
But, what I would have liked to do, if you are not up to speed, just take 10 minutes and give you a really quick tour on the ideas that were floating around, and just put it up for discussion.
Okay, yeah,
Because
let me
that
go
might
through,
have a bearing also on the back-end design, you know.
Yeah, let me go through the tables that I think are needed in this proto stage area, and I think that we need the sources, whether you call that citations or articles or whatever you call them. We need that table. We're going to need a member table, because remember, when people start doing the data entry, we are going to reward those persons, or at least we're planning to, or at least I'm planning to, suggest that they get membership points for their efforts. Now, we can't do that if we don't track who made the entry.
Mhm.
We need an author table, I think, for, like, if Bain 66 cites, some study, and those studies have authors in them, we'll need an author table. And I would like to see, first name, last name, that sort of thing, but also a bio entry, some kind of memo field where we could scrape something like off Wikipedia or some other source. So if we have an author and we don't know, and we got two with the same name, we can kind of, figure out who that author is really easy. And then a publisher, was this a New York Times? Was this published in a journal? Whatever. I'd like to have that information from the get-go too. That way, we don't have to I think we won't have to ask our data entry folks to go back to the start and go through all the entries and add this extra stuff. So.
Yeah, well, collect as much data to begin with as possible.
Yeah. Without delaying the project, but as soon as we can get those tables ready to go, I think that's basically what we need for tables getting going. Any comments on that before we go to Real Raven?
So that's members, citations, sources, authors, publishers.
Yeah. The citations is the source. Like, you could call it, I don't know what you called it in your schema day, but it's the citations of videos, whether it's a video, article, or podcast.
Media type.
Thinking on schema, I called them just, it was in a table called research.
Okay.
But it's probably not the right name for it.
I also had a thought on, with videos especially. I know a video would be kind of one type of media, but how are you going to treat, or would you really treat like a snippet of a video as its own entity? I wonder. Like, if you were saying, hold on, like I have this viral bit of a video that's really important, just to say a time marker or something. Would that be its own piece of media, or how would you treat that?
Well,
no, that would have to be.
Right.
That would absolutely have to be part of the video as a whole, because the clip may not fit the context presented when taken into account of the video as a whole.
Okay.
Once
so
you upload a video,
secondary
you
table that links, that's joining on the main media. If you had like a one-to-many there again, if you had various, let's say, time markers or something pointing to within the video, right?
Yeah.
And that could be also a format for if it was a document, that could also be like a section or something. If you were generalizing it.
Yeah, I think we can come back to that question. It's worth thinking about now, but I think we can come back to that question, because nobody is going to sit there through this initial data entry, I think, and do these snippets. We kind of agree with that, right? We just want to get the videos listed and the articles listed. My suggestion is, later on, maybe stage 2, stage 3, somewhere in this process, we start rewarding members for transcriptions, whether that's a closed caption time-coded transcription or a
Yeah, I'm not.
paragraph.
I mean,
Yeah,
nobody has the
just let me
time to do that.
finish. Just
Sorry.
let me finish.
Okay.
A paragraph by paragraph transcription of an article that's written, or a podcast. Those can all be in, like you say, a one-to-one relational table, or it could be into a one-to-many relational table, depending on, how we decide we want to handle it. If we want to handle it as its own general source article, then probably it's a one-to-many. I don't know, but I think we can cross that bridge. But go ahead, Raven. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. It was just, I just had the thought, I haven't done many videos, but I'm just working on one, and obviously, in the type of video that I make, which is music video, I'm really interested in just very short snippets, max 10 seconds, to go with the flow. And I thought, hey, that would be quite handy if I had, rather than having to download. For instance, I was looking for some footage of Tim Hunt and what's the other guy, Matt, the satellite guy, Matt Taylor, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes, you want a snippet of the guy talking, and that's what you want, and you don't want anything else. Or maybe that iconic moment when he was interviewed while he was wearing the shirt, right? And that's all you're interested in. And that would be kind of the highlight of the video, So I thought, how would you handle that,
Yeah.
The thing is, there are some conversion sites for example, make YouTube videos into MP3 files or just into short snippets. So basically, I guess it would be possible to include a function where you can set a time frame from this time point to this time point, and then let the website automatically produce the file and offer it for download.
Right.
That would be brilliant. If that was technically possible, it would be brilliant, I think.
Right.
Research and everything.
I think the mechanic for that, it could be something else, but my idea for the mechanic was that basically the transcriber, when they go through it, they identify what they think is a sentence, and that's an entry, and that's time-coded. So that when you go through looking through the or the transcript, you simply click on the little checkbox by the sentences you want a clip of, and it's fucking automatically linked in. And I've seen a service that slices up video, and I think it was on VidMe.
Mm-hmm.
It can do that for you. So I know it can be done, but I don't know how the technology works, and hopefully we can do that. But
okay, well that's already super advanced. I would have just made it really simple, and I wouldn't even have demanded of people providing full transcripts, because that is hugely time consuming. But usually people have something like a highlight or something, and or maybe 2 or 3 highlights, and they pick them and they just link them when they describe a piece of content. Maybe a famous quote. If you look at the work like 1984, for instance, you wouldn't like to transcribe every chapter or something, but I'm sure you'd have 2 or 3 favorite pieces, and they'd be always be quoted, and that'd be infinitely more useful and easier to kind of catalog than a full transcript. That's a huge task, because you really have to sit through the whole thing, and just it's incredible amount of time. So I think that from the data entry point of view, it's easier if you say, hey, pick the best bits and highlight them. And
what you're doing is you're saying, hey, if you've made a clip of this, please put it in our database so that we can also use that clip really easy.
Okay. Well, that'd be great.
Yeah,
then you get into copyright problems, I mean, I thought that oh god, I forgot your name. Sargent suggested.
Yep.
Yeah, if what you suggested, Sargent, you just have the time codes and a service that scrapes it from the original location, and then you don't get into trouble with the copyright problems,
Not only that, you would also run into storage problems if you, for example, store all these snippets permanently so other people can use it. If I were a troll, I would misuse the system to overload the server with many snippets.
Okay, that's not a hypothetical. You are a troll.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I mean, you know, the about hosting actually video content. That was also something I already mentioned today to Tom, and that is, if you want to upload video content, first of all, I think nobody should upload. You should own the rights to it, so it's your own video if you upload it, and I think you have to pay for it, for the storage or for the bandwidth in some way, because that's something. Initially, the site cannot finance that, you know.
Video and money are way down the line, though. We don't
Yeah,
even have
exactly.
a database yet.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
think we've got to focus on the
Database.
listing entries now. As far as uploading videos and backing those up, the best that we can offer from a a low budget standpoint is what we're going to probably end up doing first, I would imagine, and that's just listing and linking to
Yep.
the location and the alternate locations possibly
Yeah.
that the where these videos are found, and that's what we're going to do now. If you're talking about people needing the problem with what you're talking about is a really hard thing to do unless you know, I don't know, the actual financials, the actuaries, or whatever you want to call it. Because if I post a video up on our site, we're just talking basically storage for the amount of views I get. But if we put Sargon's videos on, now we're talking bandwidth. We're not talking fucking storage. We're talking bandwidth. So how do you fucking, you have to average out what the cost is amongst everybody and have that figured out before you can do it.
But I don't think initially it's going to be used by consumers in that sense anyway. More of research, when you make your own videos, so maybe. But anyway, I don't think we should worry about it. Shall I quickly go through this UI stuff that we went through?
Yeah.
Yep.
Let me go ahead and screen share it because I think you got it ready.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You also can just click on real picture and then it's set up permanently.
Yeah, I think I got him presenting.
Yeah. So basically, I took it from the first hangout that Tom did with whom did you do the first hangout with? Boris, right?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
But I want to make this clear before you get into this. I don't think this is the prototype stage. I think this is one step after that.
Yeah,
But
I
go
know.
ahead.
This is just that was just from brainstorming, but I think it gives some interesting insights into where we see the data going. Anyway, so basically it's based on Tom's prototype of the landing page, or what I call the index page. And sorry, it's a bit cluttered, but I was just taking a screen grab and just kind of was painting with Photoshop while we were discussing it. So there's two sections basically, a grid section and a search / filter section. And the grid section, the most important thing was that it has this sponsored area at the top, which is fixed, which can be used to get some funds for the site, so you can actually buy or earn points in order to be in the sponsored area, and there'll be some sort of a algorithm that will swap out stuff eventually, so it's not like bogarted by just one YouTuber. So that would always be on that page, and then underneath, and that there's a I don't know, can you guys see my mouse?
Yes.
Okay, great. So there's the arrow there on the left, so that's the sponsored. And then there's three more buttons. One is group, which is basically, what is group? Group is group, I don't know. Friend is basically, let me see, I had other names for these which were more common basically. One was subs. Which one is the equivalent of subscriptions? I think group is subscriptions.
Yeah, I guess. Or personal maybe could be it as well.
Yeah. No, what was the idea of personal, Tom? Remind me. What was the personal area? Wasn't that something that you bookmarked, like bookmarks almost? Tom, you're muted if you're talking. He's not talking. I don't remember it anyway, but let's just say it's 3 different. We went to get coffee, right? That's 3 different areas. But what was interesting about it was that, of course, you could scroll through here and just look at 3 things at a time, and you can use the filter area to filter your results. But one idea that I had was that you could expand it. So if you click on group, then your whole grid, except for the sponsored area, would expand to just show your group videos, or friend that would just expand to that, and personal it would so you'd have 9 or more thumbnails for within that area basically, and then you would have less to scroll through. So that was just a little idea. But what's more important, more interesting is the idea of tagging. He called at the bottom you see these colored terms, right? Which Tom called genres. And I said, well, it's like a tag. It's just a one-to-many. And the thing with the tags, the original idea from Tom was that these are just personal tags. So you tag yourself. But obviously, tags are more useful if they're shared. So I thought, how do we manage this? You know, because the initial idea from Tom was, well, we have a couple of pre-made tags that we already like pre-populate the database with. And what I said, that's probably not a good idea, because you come up with some tags, and another person comes up with completely different tags, and you might not find them useful. So what I thought was make a distinction between the tags that you personally invent, and then I call them community tags, which are shared between everybody, and have a promotion process from personal to community, and the process is triggered by consensus, which means that if many people use the same tag, let's say feminism, let's say 100 people or whatever, then it will be promoted into a community tag that everybody can use. And if multiple people tag the same video with the same tag, then also you give that a stronger consensus weight, and it will be eventually promoted to a community tag so that everybody can use it.
Sounds like an awesome idea.
Yeah, that was one of my brighter moments. I thought, yeah, because it's kind of driven by the mass, you know, by the consensus of something. So I made up some rules, and we can just weight those rules, you know, with the factors n and m, multiply how many people do we need, how many people do we need to consent, you know. And the other thing was this color scheme. Now the color scheme we said is something that would be personal. So you kind of say, okay, I color whatever I find really important, I make that red, and that's just my personal color scheme. It's not something that's shared in the community. So that's something that if we consent to do something like this, it needs to be reflected in the data layer, of course. And then the next thing, or any comments first?
Not so far. Sounds good so far.
Okay, so now the other thing that the filter area shows here, there's 3 separate filters, and I just plunked in those checkboxes so that you can combine them. So one is just the media, one is the a full text search, or some sort of a word search. We haven't really discussed the details of it. Then obviously actually 4. There's the word search, then there's the tags. You can click tags and say, okay, I'm only interested in America and gender or whatever. We'd have to think of whether it's that's a Boolean AND or Boolean OR, you know, whether...
I have a question. The tags you offer on the site, are they basically put in place by us, or will users be able to create their own tags completely, like typing up
Completely. That's the idea. You create your own tags, right? But you will have suggestions from the community if already tags are pre-existing. So, you know, when you start typing, you could say, you start typing FEM, and it will suggest, hey, do you want feminism? Because 100 other people already use that. So you can use the community tags, and that will be more useful, obviously, because the chances are that other content is already pre-tagged with that tag, so it's more useful what the group does.
Isn't the issue if people start just making up weird tags?
Well, you see, you make up weird tags, and then they just stay for you personally, unless many people use that same weird tag, you know. So if everybody uses the tag Jigglypuff, which is a weird tag, just an example, and there's 100 people who think that that's a useful tag, then it becomes automatically promoted to a community tag, so everybody can see it, and it's not weird anymore.
Also,
Right?
everybody who has set it privately will be able to directly search for it. So yeah.
Yes. And I mean, you could already be able to search for it even if it's not a community tag. You know, it may not have crossed the threshold for being publicly visible. You know, from a drop down or whatever. You know, but it may still already be active in your search because somebody else has mentioned it. You know, if you both agree independently that the tag is Brexit, then it makes sense to show that as a result for the other person, right?
Well,
So,
it's in the data bank, and the search algorithm will search the data bank. So yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I think that makes sense. I think the difference between that and community tags would be that the community tags would somehow be offered in some like pool or drop down or whatever, or cloud. Would have to, you know, UI will have to talk about. But it's just the general idea is that obviously if there is an easy community tag and you are about to make up your own, which is kind of weird, you might prefer to use the community one because it's more useful, because, you know, it will come up in a search, it will give you a pool of related stuff. So, you know, how to solve that in detail, I don't know, but, you know, the idea was that, you know, the more people use it, the more likely it is useful for more people. It's simple. And then there's the media type filter. So we had music, video, and article. News article, and I think that's it for that page. And then obviously when you click on a video, you drill down. But that's all we discussed about the index page. I don't know if you have any objections, additional ideas, whatnot, or it's a little bit overloaded at the moment as well. Designers would have to kind of think how to rein that in.
Yeah, the minimalist in me is screaming, looking
I
at
know,
this.
but you know, I just threw all the ideas I had up on the page, you know. And one of the things that's a little bit problematic is this whole text thing, because you might have a lot of them, you know, and you might just kind of limit that and say, hey, you can't have more than 10 tags on screen because, you know, it just
5.
gets. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Let the web designers decide that, you know, what's useful, you know, in UX kind of discussion, and how to select them also.
Basically, you could do it similar to Twitter and just show one bracket with trending tags. My tags that are pretty often used lately, and that one will be highlighted.
Mm. Yeah, you obviously want an area where you can put your own tags and like highlight your favorite tags and say, oh, I'm gonna today I'm gonna research libertarian and Islam, you know. So if you have your 10 favorites, your personal ones down there, there's no reason why that should be restricted, you know. If you want something unwieldy that you need to scroll through, or you have a big screen, whatever. That was the idea with the colors as well, you know. Anyway, that's just detail. There was another thing, was the drill down. I think, what was it? Oh yeah. So consensus on tags graded by a point system can be achieved via a term consensus, 2 people using the same tag, and content consensus, same tag used on same content, and potentially add into this YouTube-like playlists. That's something like you said. So if I select a video and put in guns playlist, we might be able to use that data for tagging as well. Oh, right. So, okay. Well, playlists, we haven't really discussed that. I don't know. Okay. The other thing was the data entry page, the actual detail page. And the idea I had was you will always want to have a way to relate it to something else. So the idea that again, this is just very specific, and yet it's really ugly because I just threw it up on the page. So if you're working on a piece of content, let's say a video called chemsurf.com, and you have you enter data, metadata on it. The idea would be that you have an area on the screen. In this case, I just chose the lower left quadrant, that you can relate to, so that if you reference other pieces of content, you can scroll through them on the same page, and you can potentially reference back and forth, say, that other video mentions it, whatnot. I didn't put in any detail or anything, but that from a UI point of view, I think that would be a wise move to have, rather than, because the initial idea that Tom had was, oh, let's have separate tags, So the starting point would be you drill down from your index page into a detail page for one piece of content, and then you just work on that one piece of content. And what I immediately thought was cross-reference, and I thought it's not really useful to cross-reference between tabs. It's very hard to do, You'd have to copy some sort of a token, and then you have to paste it on the other side. So what you'd really want is so the first thing I thought was the Norton Commander, you have a left and a right hand side, and you have a piece of content you worked on, and then another piece of content that you reference. But then we thought, well, maybe you need more space, for the data entry. So have one side for your data entry and the other side split into the piece of content that you're cataloging, and then your reference stuff. And that's basically what this screenshot is about. And that's pretty much all we covered in that meeting. But
it took a lot longer.
Yes, of course. It always takes longer to hash out. I mean, the question is how to. I think that is really a tricky one, referencing between pieces of content. How to solve that, even on the data layer, and then the UI is even more difficult. That's a really tricky one. How to browse through your stuff. You probably one thing I thought as well was you'd want some sort of a basket system where you say, I'm interested in this. You check stuff. And then you kind of look at your basket and see how that relates to each other. I don't know, basket maybe a
Cart.
stupid term, but sorry.
Cart. You basically put it into your cart.
Yep.
Cart,
That's a really good metaphor for it. Yeah, it is kind of like that's the bottom bar that we're talking about in the screen. That's
just
basically
like a pool or something.
Yeah. The cart that you got everything into while you're reviewing this top video, and over in the right you can make your comments and then quickly switch to other things in your cart to continue on with your comments.
Yeah,
I mean, that would be so fucking sweet. I'm
that would
coming
be
in
really
my
nice.
pants.
You make that persistent, obviously. So whenever there was one thing we said, like that whenever you use Ajax, whenever you lose focus on a text box or some data entry control, it will immediately be saved, so you never lose your stuff. And then you could really quickly switch and promote. If you say, "Oh, I'm interested in that leafy video there in the bottom left," I'm just going to promote that and blow it up to the page, and then you wouldn't even need multiple tabs. You just literally jump from video to video, because I don't see it quite as methodically used in the beginning as Tom was, like you go through the whole content and then you make a transcript and you make a timeline and all that. I see it more like, oh no, I'm interested in exactly this bit, and I'm just going to transcribe that bit from minute 1 to minute 1:30, and because that's really important, what this person says there, just kind of put a quote in that you can read on screen, and then you can, you're not forced to see the whole video,
It would be kind of awesome. I mean, basically, you want to work on a project and you want to gather information that you can read or watch to produce your own project. It would be quite awesome if you could make up multiple projects at the same time, so that you not only have one card with a list of items in there, but that you can actually name your project, open a card for it, put in whatever you want for that project, while also working on the other one, and also have some kind of function where you can store your previously used card, so you can look back into how you made your contribution in the first place.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I
Call it
envisioned
a
to
session
have
or something.
a project table at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be awesome.
Let's call it a session maybe, and the
Yeah.
session can contain a card, your pool of stuff, But I
Yep.
mean, obviously, at the beginning, it's just data entry. You're not necessarily already planning on making a new content. You're just kind of planning on kind of preparing for it. So I don't know if that is actually the the perfect page for doing the research. I mean, maybe that's the best approach, to have a one page that does both data entry and research, and you make it enticing enough that while you're doing research, you also enter data and kind of enrich it with meta, with the meta content that we're gathering. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I can see this really being super useful as a YouTube creator.
I mean, basically, you would have maybe your card symbol on the top left, and if you click on it, you have a drop-down menu with the multiple sessions you have, and if you mouse over one of them, another drop-down menu opens with the actual content of the respective card.
Mm-hmm.
Then you would be able to switch real quick between your multiple sessions.
Yep. Makes sense.
If I might, two issues. One, I feel like making a JavaScript project that complex, and it would have to be JavaScript to support any of the very complex front-end systems that you're describing here. Shit, I'm high. I got lost what I was saying.
There's no disagreement. I think as far
You
as
wanna be
it
high
being
and
complex, and
I don't want to inherently exclude anyone who has limited bandwidth, because those are the people I'm trying to get onto YouTube. Those are the people I'm trying to get into this so that they're working, even if it's in a form of self-expression rather than
Or are you
labor.
talking complex from the point of view who's going to use it? Is it? Or
Yeah, I would rather that the application be designed with simplicity in mind,
Yeah.
and then complexity be available to those for whom it would be available by grace of bandwidth and processor speed.
Well, in that sense, you would probably have to, like in that easy-fied mode, you would probably kind of have to leave out that referenced area altogether.
Of course, and that's kind of what I'm trying to say is, I mean, we've got all of Africa, most of Asia, a good chunk of Europe, people who need an application that they can run over 3G.
Oh,
Well, you as a user, basically, if you come to the page and just want to read an article or watch a video, you should be able to do so just by going on the index page, search for it, open it, consume it. But
Of course.
if you actually want to work on a project, you could simply include a link or a direct function on the site, which would open this functionality as well, and only then download the application you would need for that. So basically, your tab would expand if it needed to.
Of course, and there are tons of ways to do it, but I really do feel like it should be a point of consideration that not everyone can run JavaScript, not everyone does run JavaScript, and
not everyone wants to run JavaScript.
Exactly. So we have a broad audience of both users and content producers to consider when designing a front end.
Well, I would say that this front end is really specialized for data entry. It's not really, you don't really need the reference area when you're consuming. You don't need that. You only want the data, and you want this thumbnail, maybe a video player or something, and that would be a completely different page, which which would have to be designed completely differently. Whereas if you're entering data, you need some sort of forms, and they may be fairly fairly structured, right? with a goal in mind, you know. And obviously, you could have a simple and a more in-depth interface depending on your needs. You could have just a really simple data entry area that gives you just the core fields, like when was this piece of content made, the URL, where is it, maybe a synopsis, like a free text field, and maybe a couple of tags, and that's it. You know, you could keep it
Of
really
course,
that
but
simple.
the reason that I'm bringing this up is a much greater open source perspective in knowing that we shouldn't be tying any even small data entry front end directly to the back end.
Yeah.
We should be able to produce multiple interfaces,
Yeah.
perhaps a super low bandwidth
Yeah.
interface
I agree.
specifically for third countries,
And when
and
you
a super awesome interface for you because you love your super awesome
Yeah,
interfaces.
exactly. No, Sergio, I agree. You could break this up, you know, you could break this up into separate tabs or separate pages and say, okay, you know, one entry for the header information, and so it's really simple. And then you could drill down into the next page, and that might not even need JavaScript. Then you just have you have different forms, but I think that what I probably go lean more towards the complicated interface because it kind of highlights the complexity of the data, you know, which
Well,
I want to drill down into. Usually, when I design user interfaces, I start from a complicated point and then dumb it down. It usually gets simpler the more it progresses. You know, you usually take out
Right.
stuff.
But when
So.
developing an open source project, you really need to start from the bottom and work your way up so
Yeah.
that contributors can keep up and
Mhm.
aren't overwhelmed with the breadth of the project.
So what I would suggest is I would leave that. I don't know. I still like that. I like to be able to jump between different points, you know, rather than having to open a tab, work on one thing, and then jump back to the index page, and then jump back in, jump out, jump in, jump out. I like that immersive thing, you know, where you're just on the one page, and YouTube does it as well. You know the way
Of
that you work
course.
on a when you comment on a YouTube video, right? You have different elements. You've got the comment bar, you got the YouTube thing, and you got an area for other stuff, you know, where other stuff that is related is listed. And I think that also keeps your. I know it's a little bit complicated and there's a learning curve involved. Even YouTube, there's a learning curve. But what I like about it is that. Um, it keeps your perspective fresh because it always tells you, hey, there's other stuff there as well, you know, that needs to be worked on, and maybe, you know, you get an idea. I also like the fact of sometimes something random coming your way, not just the stuff you searched for, you know, discovering new content. So that's all kind of aspects I wanted to throw your way, you know, with this thing. But yeah, I don't know.
well, let me jump in here for just a second. I think it's useful to think of it uh, from one side, like Sevi says, from the bottom up, so
Mhm.
that we can take this in bite-sized chunks and get those bite-sized chunks down. I
Mhm.
also think it's very important that if you're involved in the project, you're at least looking at the information from the guys that are looking at it from uh, the complex to the simple way too, so that you can hopefully meet in the middle technology-wise.
Mhm.
The other thing that I say about this topic is that we're a very small group now, but once we get to the proto stage and data entry's going, I think it's going to create excitement. I imagine it will. I can't wait to have this research tool. It's beyond fucking cool in my mind. And when we have that, I think we're going to get a lot more volunteers. And at that time, we can have a low bandwidth team and a high bandwidth team, and you just go to the one that suits your fancy, but you just have to be aware of what the other team's kind of doing in general terms, uh, so you're pulling the card in the same direction.
Mhm.
I'm merely arguing the Unix philosophy angle so that both sides of this are being argued. He actually has some really great points.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I'm not saying that there's an argument here. I'm giving my 2 cents.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a Photoshop that old in years.
We also mentioned mobile browsers, which is also a big argument for making it not necessarily from the get-go simple, but with CSS, I would just let the page degrade and would
Just
say
be responsive.
scroll it down. So I would have the data entry underneath the content, and I would just leave out the reference area on a small screen, would completely drop it. So in a way, I would degrade the bells and whistles depending on screen estate. Just okay, you don't have that feature because you don't have that much screen space. Somebody who's like brave enough to put that onto a HD screen and wants to do a ton of work with it is probably happy when
To be honest, at this point, with the complexity, you maybe are better off if you don't just offer it as mobile site, but as actual app.
As what?
As app, mobile app for the phone.
Oh yeah, well, I wouldn't even think about writing an app because that's additional cost and stuff. I just thought of it's easy enough to use media queries to leave out stuff on a small screen. That's what I usually do. Just use add media queries, and if the screen is a certain under a certain width, you just omit stuff. It's very simple. Not much coding involved. It's all done by the presentation layer. I mean, obviously, the coding is still hard when you do Ajax and stuff like that, But I think it's too early to worry about this. I would build it for a normal web browser first, and then see how can it be made palpable, and make a mobile version of it using like presentation language, whatever.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could just magically make it happen at once. But when you're dealing with and I'm not saying that we don't have good people, but we don't have a professional organization, to enforce what we want so much that we just basically need to take off bite-sized chunks at this time and then come in with the keeping in mind the bigger proposals that are on the table as we take off these little bite-sized chunks.
One thing we could do as well, if we don't have a referenced area, we could just we could still use this area. Sorry, red. And just have a notepad there, scratchpad. I've seen that on a lot of sites. That's kind of persistent. You can just type stuff in there. Your own notes. Your personal notes that are not kind of tied to the record you're working through. So you would just have that there, and you'd still have your form entry on the right, whatever that may be. And I think that we should focus on whatever these forms should be, how they reflect on the data structure behind it. I think that should be the first step, because then you could even program this without even JavaScript in mind. Just have a HTML web form, like Sevi said. If that's what you said, Sevi.
I'm sorry, I got distracted thinking about something.
What I was saying is that if you left that bells and whistles, that reference field out, and you were still kind of going with, you were planning to maybe design something like that's more interactive and more kind of cross-referencing, then you could just instead have have an area like a notepad, a persistent area where you can type text and just take your notes per user, and still have your data entry on the right and your piece of content on the top left, and just always have that, no matter what kind of content you look at, have that structure so it's really easy to navigate. And we could just concentrate on designing this data entry area, and since it's only like basically a maybe scrollable long area on the screen, you could potentially do that without JavaScript. Just have an HTML form and a submit button, So it would be really simple to design, and we could just focus on the relationship between the back end and the front end, and more focus on the back end first. Build it in HTML.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
And
I
then
think that's
later
all.
swap it out with Ajax, and put the bells and whistles on.
Yeah, I think that's all good, but I do want to focus on first things first, if we can. And so, Sevi has this question: which projects and which aspects of those projects are currently priority of discussion? And I'm not sure. Can you expand on that, Sevi?
Oh, I'm just wondering, I mean, what we're actually trying to accomplish in the immediate and what we're trying to accomplish in the long term.
I would say basically, you see the tables that I've listed. Those are the very, very short term. What we're looking at is I don't really care what the entry forms looks like. Personally, others may care, but the ability for somebody to enter in uh, I'll just use an example, all of Sargon's videos and all of the articles and all of the podcasts that he references in his description, and those have to be linked to a member. Uh, those things have to be linked to an author. Like, we know that Sargon is the author of his own videos, but the articles that he references, we need a table of authors so that we don't get garbage in, garbage out, misspelled author names, shit like that, right? And then a publisher, and the entry and the retrieval of those records basically is step one. So if I enter in, if I'm a volunteer, and I'm doing Sargon's videos, I have a place to put all of these things, and then I can pull those records in a, I don't know whether it's a text file or a PHP response page or whatever. Those records that I've entered, I can look at them, and I can look at the records of other people. Some kind of search. Or validation of what's been entered that we can see online, and that's what I see as step one. But go ahead.
Wouldn't it be easier to just include a function that displays who uploaded it, which account?
Well, you want to be able to go in later and verify or look up something or modify a record, correct?
Well, if the uploader is known, if it's running on his account, he could, at least for text articles, he could still have editorial rights. So he could go back there and change stuff around.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, yeah, we want to be able to, it's the basic, I forget what the acronym is, update,
Create,
retrieve records.
Create, retrieve, update, and delete.
Yep, CRUD, yep. So the retrieval part is, I don't care if it's, dumps it into a text file and you can look at the text file in your browser or whatever, or it actually creates a HTML page. I don't care, just as long as the people that are putting in the data can get this feedback that there is all of this, they're doing something that may look very small to them, but they're getting access to what everybody else is putting in, so it's really useful as a research tool right almost from the beginning, if that makes sense.
Sorry, you lost me.
Okay. If all I can do is enter in data and I can't retrieve what others have put in the system, if I have no capability to search the system and retrieve other records, then I'm just looking, I can't look at this big pile of records that like, yay, I'm a part of this big project and all of these records are getting entered, and look here, I can look at this guy's, somebody's got Skeptor's complete catalog done, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I think it should work like a wiki, right? So you're working on a record, and maybe while you're working, it's locked. But once you free it, somebody else can work on it.
And retrieve it and look at it. Yes.
Not just look at it, work on it, like data entry.
Yeah.
And the one thing what's tricky is obviously concurrent editing. That shouldn't be allowed. So whoever edits something, it's locked by them, and once he leaves the session, it gets unlocked automatically.
Yeah, and what I used to do in my own projects is, but I never did multi-user projects. But I would actually take the command that I was writing that updates or modifies the database, and I would just put that in a memo field and put that in as a log table. So, it would be like create such and such record, with these entries in it, whatever the SQL.
Basically, you just want to save the previous iterations for people to look what got changed.
So we can go back if somebody's fucking hacking up our data, we could figure out who it is.
Well, you could do that. You could have a history table for each table, history field with an added time index as part of the primary key. We do that in our base tables in our big database. Okay. Obviously, that's going to be a lot more data, so you have to kind of chunk it in the right kind of chunks, Don't have a.
You can only save the differences between the two.
You can do here.
Yeah.
Although that's probably
the delta
complicated.
Of the data.
For example, on the bottom of the page, you just say uploaded by x epsilon z and last edited by x epsilon z. And if you want to look into detail, you basically just open another page where it shows you the detailed history, who edited what, when.
And I think that we don't have to have that for the tech team to start looking at this and giving each other our comments. But I think before we have people entering a load of data, we do need some sort of log function.
Yeah,
we're talking thousands and thousands of records, and people are going to be pissed if somebody comes in after them, some fucking hacker, and completely destroys everything we did. Of course, we'll have data backups, I'm sure, so we could always go back to.
How big will these backups be per entry?
Yeah.
I mean, if we save the whole document every time someone edits something about it, I see another glaring entry point for any troll who wants to fuck up the server.
Yes.
Depends. I mean, maybe you could collate this stuff some way. You'd have to design something anyway, but I mean, you could potentially collate changes by the same user in like 1-day increments or something. So that's all your stuff you did that day, and then delete everything. The detail from if we worked on it the whole day from 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, really, truly, a real history system would look at each of the fields in a record, and it would say, okay, now he changed this one field. So you don't protocol minute changes within the one field. Let's say your free text field, but you say there was a change in the free text field, and before it was this, and after it was this, which is 2,000 characters longer. Obviously, you don't take a detailed history of what happened in between. You just he started to work on it, and then he finished to work on it on that text field,
Yeah.
And usually what you do is you take a snapshot every time you lose focus. So if you move away from the text field, you save it in your history table. And you could, if you normalize that stuff, then it wouldn't be that much data either. You could potentially normalize it.
Yep. Well, the main concern, I think, is just to have that guard against it being able to identify malicious people. Because, like I say, if we got 100,000 records here, people are going to be pissed if it's all fucked up, and for good reason. So we need backups. We'll have to have an automated backup system of some sort, and also this ability somehow to go find the malicious people. And the easiest way that I've done that on my own was, like I said, when I was building commands to update a table or modify a table, I also save those in a memo field as the log. And if you just included in that table the user and the command that they caused to occur, You've got it. I mean,
Mhm.
you've got
Basically,
it. Yeah.
Sammy, have you seen this?
For all my minimalism that I'm trying to sell, I don't disagree with anything anyone here is saying. I just wanted to note that this project has a lot of breadth, and
Yeah.
I like to make sure that we're all, generally on the same page on what is what about goes where, considering how close together the tables are to being set right now.
Tom, am I still sharing?
What?
Am I still sharing?
not permanently, only when you speak.
Oh, okay. I don't know if you've seen this. That was the Etherpad we made up, and that makes a full timeline of every what's it called? Every key that you type, so you can exactly see. I mean, that's ideal, you know. If you can do something like that, I don't know how they do it, but it's quite amazing. It's quite fabulous.
That's
Maybe
really
contact them,
cool.
ask them if it's open source, and just copy the function.
It is
It
open
is open
source.
source.
Perfect, then
Of
just
course
copy
it's
it.
of course
No,
it's open source.
github.com/etherpad/etherpad.
You can fork
I've
it.
already pillaged their code many times before.
Fantastic. But you know, I mean, I don't know if I would be really interested how they store that shit, you know, because it's quite interesting.
It looks like a function. It looks like the code is just logging what changes occurred when, and to look into previous stages, it manually rolls back. It basically undoes every change if you go back,
Yeah.
and puts back every change if you go forward.
Right,
It just
exactly.
seems like a huge task to integrate something like this. You know,
No, it's
Tom,
actually
that's-
really tiny once you get down to it.
okay. Okay.
Because the maximum size always only can be the maximum size of the document.
Times 2, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. I'll return to the pad now. So yeah, I guess now that I showed you the UI stuff that I was thinking about, I think we have to start thinking about how we store the data, right? And who's going to do what? What's with the prototype? Oh yeah, but one thing that one idea that Tom had as well, or that we kind of agreed on, if we could make some prototypes and just present them, you know, not like the terrible mess that I showed earlier, more like just focus on one feature, like for instance that grid, right? And just explain that and make like a 5 or 10 minutes presentation that can also be used. One to show it to the developers, you know, to kind of show what kind of requirement it is, and another one to show it to the users as well, to see, you know, hey, is this acceptable, or you know, how can you use it, you know? Because I think that's quite important that you break it down into pieces and say that's this, that's the other, you know, and how it works. And I think that once you do that as well, you break down stuff into pieces, then you find the design flaws very quickly as well.
It's genuinely meritocratic. I appreciate that.
It's my.
Well, if I can go ahead and move on now. Shit, I lost my Etherpad. Okay, there it is. All right. So if we can move on, I think we've got an idea of what the proto stage will look like, but we've got the Tech Talk channel in Discord that we can post questions, and if people are online in Discord, you can just drop them down to a voice channel and discuss it. So we don't have to wait every Thursday to work out all of these little extra issues. But I sure would like to see something that it would excite the tech people very soon, and then after that, get the other volunteers that want to do the data entry excited. So moving on, the next topic I wanted to cover was about the Discord server, and we have all these issue channels, and they've been very useful to figuring out, where people stand on different issues, but they're kind of cluttering up the Discord server. So I don't know, should we be moving all of those issues to the wiki? Should Sevi set up GitHub? Should we be moving the tech issues over to the GitHub wiki and all of that? Or I think Mia had the idea that we should use Google Docs. So let's just talk through those issues.
But when it comes to proposals, Google Docs definitely are the easiest and fastest method to edit stuff with multiple users working on it. But in general, I would actually say let's stay on Discord. I mean, every time someone posts a question there or something else, I get a notification. I know exactly what is going on and when it's going on, so it really speeds up communication instead of having just a static page that you look into once in a while and maybe someday decide to never look back into.
I disagree. I mean, I think Discord is a really bad platform for documenting stuff. Sure, you get lots of great conversation and interactivity, but it's really, really hard to read through those pages. So even if you just look at the prototypes page, when there's just one author and he does a huge chunk of work himself, it's still an endless. You just scroll through shit basically before you come to the meat of the thing. And with the wiki, you're kind of forced to put it into a structure, as a documentation structure.
Well, I don't think Bonkers is arguing that. He's just saying leave the channel there so people can discuss the issue, and then people pull it out and put it into.
You have to put it somewhere eventually.
Summarized, format.
For example, as far as I understood it, Discord allows you to pinpoint stuff on the top of each channel, right?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that yet, but if you could demonstrate it,
I've seen it in one channel at least, where the announcement was. There it would always appear on top, and pinned messages. If you look into the Discord UI, you see the bell on the top right, and right next to it, pinned messages. Basically, we just need to figure out how to fucking pin messages, and then we just put a link to the Google Doc in it.
And Google Docs, I mean, that just means that, I don't know, I mean, I haven't really used Google Doc that much, but it's just basically a pool of documents. It's not like it's not like a wiki or a conference or a CMS where you have stuff that links to each other.
No, that's true. But Google Docs allows you to make edits and also comment on each, basically on each point of the page. So basically, you click on a point and it opens basically an annotation interface where you can type your comment to that particular part of the document in. So basically, you would have the document as a whole, just as orientation for the tech people, so they know exactly what's the current proposal, what I need to work on in the respective issue. And beyond that, you would still have the Discord channels for people to live interact and just put their annotations in the document if they have something to add to the proposal itself.
Could you maybe demo that? If you demoed it, that would be good. Maybe in a separate meeting, because I'd like to see how that works.
Okay,
I'm very used to content management systems such as SharePoint or Confluence, and they are similar to Wikipedia as well, and also MDN. I don't know if you know that one. That's Mozilla Development
Do you have
Network.
a bit more time later on? Then I could show it to you when we go in a Discord channel also.
I don't, unfortunately. I have to get my daughter from Galway, and I have to head off in 20 minutes.
But you guys can catch each other on Discord. I mean, it's not a problem.
Just hit me up when you have time. At least I will be online. You're German as well, right?
Yeah. Have you seen MDN? I wonder.
NVN? No.
MDN, Mozilla Developer Network.
No, never seen that. I myself, I'm not a coder. I have no idea the technicality side of things.
So, and maybe that's too deep, but it's basically a content management system, and you can work on articles together, or you can create new ones, and that's similar to a Wikipedia also that Tom demoed the last time. When you create content, right, you write a page and you write stuff up like we did in the Etherpad, and you want to structure it And then you say, oh, but I want to write another page to about content X, right? Then you simply open two brackets, write the name of the new page, and close the brackets, and then it automatically generates a link for you to a non-existing page. And when you click on that link, it will create the page for you. If somebody else clicks on that link, it will create the page for them, and they can start writing that page. So it's very simple. I bet Google Docs probably took some of that functionality, but that's basically the idea of a wiki, that you structure it by creating links to non-existing content that you're also creating on the same page, right? And that Docs, I always think of, when I think Google Docs, I think, oh, that's just a file area where I can upload Word docs, and Google has a Word equivalent editor, a rich text editor on the side. That's what I think Google Docs, Whereas when I hear the term wiki, then I know, okay, that's a collaborative set of pages about a topic. And when I think Discord, I think the problem with Discord is you type something and you can't fucking change it anymore after a day. You can't go up and say, well, that was bullshit, let's edit that, So a wiki is like you constantly keep making the page better, and that means you don't add more at the bottom, so you get this pukey, like a forum or something. You just puke stuff out, and the next person pukes, and then more puke, or Facebook, it's just this wall of shit that flies by, and you don't know what you did a week ago. So that's not the idea, I think, of a repository for information. Whereas a wiki is more, you work on a page and you refine it and you delete the shit that's shit, and at the end you have a really short page, but it gives you just what you need.
I think this is what we probably should do, but you guys let me know. So
you have started a wiki already.
Yeah, but just let me walk through my idea, okay? Or it's not my idea. I think it's actually bonkers. So
wait, what?
we continue to use Discord, and we pin one of the at the top, so you can just go into Discord, click on the pin to find the link to the Google Doc or the Etherpad and the wiki page that issue is linked to, And so while as a group we can use Google Docs or Etherpad to quickly get in there, put our comments in, and in the collaborative part of that. And, somebody would be in charge of that Google Doc on that issue, or Etherpad, whichever we decide to use. And then once there's a really good consensus that the person in charge of that Google Doc or Etherpad is comfortable with, they can move that over to the wiki, and then the public can get it, because we don't want the public fucking up the Google Doc or the Etherpad, right?
Yeah.
Is that too much work, or is that what we have to do?
Depends who does the work.
That's about what we have to do, I believe.
So the only question is then, I think we can use Google Docs or Etherpad, either one. Go ahead.
No, I don't think Etherpad has a permanent storage, man. It's just for brainstorming and collating information that needs to be copied somewhere permanently. Etherpad is not a thing you should even link to. You should take that info off and put it in a wiki or somewhere,
That's what he said. Basically, we just come up with ideas on Etherpad, and once we have a consensus on the idea being good, we put it on the wiki permanently for the tech people to realize it.
Yeah. And then if we come in, somebody comes in later and says, well, we need to redress this issue, they pop up a new Etherpad if it was a Google document before, but the new person kind of gathering this for the wiki decides, I like the other fucking platform better. They started and they ask people to collaborate. Once they've got the information that they need to get it to the wiki, they go ahead and do that, and that page can die, or Etherpad page, or whatever.
Die in a fire.
Burn it all down. I know how you Germans are. So.
Don't get me close to explosives.
So I think that there's general agreement on that, so that's how I will set it up. I'll leave these, we've got an awful lot of channels, but I do see the value in somebody having a new idea that they went through, just like the bug tracking issue. I don't want to go through the general project biz channel and there's 7,000 posts in it when I'm just trying to figure out what everybody said about bug tracking. So then I see bug tracking's been updated, I look at it and I say, okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And so I get what Real Raven's saying and I get what Bonkers is saying. I think we need to do both. And make it easy for Raven and make it easy for Bonkers both. And we just need to get volunteers, hopefully non-tech people, to take these roles, because the tech people, I'd rather have them concentrating on the harder stuff.
on waging war on each other.
Yeah. Again, the German side comes out. Okay.
Exactly. Listen, I got a drop. I mean, you keep on going. I left the link in the chat on one piece of technology that I find really good, and GitHub savvy. Not to dismiss that completely. I think GitHub is really important once we get into the source code. I'm not sure if it's the best platform for like designing, though. You know, when you're doing
Oh,
design.
exactly what that was exactly what I meant by that.
Okay, I'm gonna drop. I'm gonna watch the rest from
Okay.
the safety of the road or something.
Have a
On
good
my
one.
dashboard.
There's
Yeah.
no bunker you can't hide in that we can't.
That we can blow up.
Satellites coming into range now.
Yeah. So,
Oh yeah, and if you want to hit me up on Sea Line, I'm Real Raven 2000 on Sea Line now as well. So
If you want to hit me up on Sea
hit me up
Lion,
on Sea Lining.
First, I need to get into how C-Line actually works. I never used Twitter before.
Oh shit!
if
you
it's
haven't
got a
used
good
it.
API, I'll use it.
Yeah, it's just that I don't know. I just can't make myself go there every day, and people expect it to work like an SMS. But I tweeted at you. Yeah, so what? Doesn't matter to me that you didn't email me, so you didn't get an instant reply.
Damn it,
Emails are
I'm in
instant.
Skype,
Twitter,
I'm in
fuck
Discord,
Twitter.
I'm in TeamSpeak, I am in WhatsApp. What the fuck do people expect more of me?
Yeah, no.
If it's important, you send me an email.
Basically,
okay, the next topic that I want to hit up on, and I don't know if Dave is still with us, but
I am.
okay, I think we all agree. Is there anybody that disagrees that this project should be open source?
I don't.
I don't disagree that the project should be open source.
And,
I
and
don't disagree with that, yes.
okay, let's do quadruple negatives here and see if we're on the same page. So we all
I
agree
do
that.
not want to disagree with you about it not being open source. No.
Oh my God. The question that me and Dave have been hitting back and forth with each other is the question about open data. And I am in the camp that this core table, the one, if we go up and look at the tables in our Etherpad, I'm talking table 2.1, I think should be open data. In other words, some kind of Creative Commons license, copylefted. I mean, we can't, the individual entries are going to be public domain, but the entire data set, I think, qualifies for copy protection, and I say that one table should be copy left. And I don't know what, I'll let Dave explain his position.
I just have concerns of the pressures it puts on the development of it, because you've got people generating the data technically for the site, and then anyone, whilst you're developing, can just come along and take all of that data and build their own website. And whilst that's sort of great, it sort of steps on the toes of the whole development, doesn't it?
I don't see that as a disservice to. our shitlord YouTubers. Oh, my my videos are listed on a 3rd, 4th, 9th, 26th sites. I think that's good.
With Creative Commons or the GNU data public license, you can make sure that it's not used for specifically corporate intent
My suggestion was going to be possibly
or
some sort
profitable intent, I believe is the way it's worded in in those licenses.
Yeah.
My
I'm sorry to
suggestion is going to be
interrupt.
towards some sort of API interaction with the site, so anyone can present the data however they want,
Yes, please.
but they can't just download the whole core data in one go. It's got to be a more specific search of the data through our system.
Okay, so we go with a restrictive. So we go with a restrictive copyleft, like Tom wants, and then we have a page that says, "Hey, you want to mirror our data? Here's how you do it."
Yeah, that sort of thing, to make it a bit more complex so no one can just sort of walk along and take it. The other concern for me was that the data becomes out of date the second it leaves our hands. So if people are updating it constantly, which is the idea, then if you're using an API and accessing like that, the data's always live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we maintain the input.
Yeah,
So
I don't feel like anybody is stealing any information, because if I'm entering the data, I feel like I'm doing it for the purposes of free speech and public access to core information. And I honestly can't figure out why you feel like that would undo us if that data was made available. I don't see how that undermines us at all. If somebody comes along and designs a better website altogether than what we're doing, fucking A, they did all the work, and it's
my
the
point is mainly that
still copy
people are
left,
doing all the work now.
but they have to.
We're trying to make it successful. And
That's not how open source works, though. You know that. I mean,
well, you've got to generate some level of user base, don't you? You can't just sort of put together an idea and then go, anyone can have that, in a sort of, once the data's there.
No, we're generating the user base with this work right now. Our user base is listening right now. Our user base is doing a lot more reading than active input, but they're there, and they're going to grow with time as we take this project one step further.
And even if there's someone going forward and trying to clone the site and set up his own version of it, we basically try to prevent it by getting huge names in, like Computec, Computing Forever, I mean, Sargon, Overcard, and basically the big YouTubers. So they bring the community in as well. So we have the big user base and basically the bigger network altogether.
but that's just the mindset that I'm struggling against, is this idea that it has to be us that develops this tool. I'm all for us developing it, but I don't have this feeling, and I'm a capitalist. I fucking hate commies left and right? So, but to me, I don't have a problem if I'm on a football team of free speech people, right? And I break my leg and I have to go sit on this bench in the sideline because my leg's broke. I can't finish. I can't get across the goal line. Fucking A, I want my replacement guy on my team to get in there and fucking carry it across the goal line.
Well, look, as long as everyone is happy with doing that, I don't have a problem. I just wanted some level of protection for the developers who are going to put in hours of coding time. I didn't want to sort of just go, there you go, anyone can take this, and loads of people have coded a lot, and they're working towards the goal of making this site the best, but in the meantime, another site comes along and does it better. People wanted to be involved in this project.
Yeah.
And that was my thought, and also the data is live if you provide it through an API rather than just giving away the data and saying run with it.
Right, right.
As a hacker, as a developer, I take great pleasure from creating ideas that someone else may go on to make infinitely better than I could have possibly imagined. That's why I am an open source hacker. If someone comes along and does that, that's totally great. My one stipulation would be I would really want them to give us the same access to their code that we're giving them to ours.
They have to, or they'll be, in violation of the copyleft.
Precisely.
Right. And there's only so much we can do, whether you do copyright or copyleft. There's only so much we could do. So this argument came up, but Tom, they'll get the data, and then there's nothing that we can do about it. Well, yeah, we can keep going on.
Yeah.
We could just keep going on. We don't have to stop because somebody else come out with a better interface. We just yeah, that's somebody, they stole our data. We don't have the wherewithal to sue them now. We'll do that as soon as we can, maybe, or whatever.
We shrug it off and let competition replace cooperation as our driving force.
We could probably get help from FSF or somebody like that if somebody violates the copyleft in this program or site is so valuable to free speech. We'll probably get help to go after people that violate that. But there's only so much you can do, like if they're located in a country that we can't do nothing about.
Look, I mean, I'm from England. I'm all about following the general consensus here. So, that's fine. If everyone wants that, that's what's going to happen. I'm not going to go, no, you've got to make it closed source and be an asshole about it. What's the point?
Oh no, I'm not just arguing with you. I'm also trying to explain my position and why I feel strongly about it. And
one thing I would
it doesn't
say is
mean it's the right position at all.
It's not about ego, though. I'm not trying to make it about ego, and you've made it out like people who want to copy and keep the data closed, they're all about ego, and I don't think that's the case.
That's just your accent, dear. That's just your accent. Everything you say sounds like it's about ego.
Apart from that, if you leave ego out, basically only one general incentive would be left, and that is profit, but we basically want to do it as non-profit organization.
I wanted as well, just to say, whilst just talking about profit, in my proposal there is a paywall type solution, and I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to make loads of money out of this project. The paywall was just to enable us maybe a bit of money to develop features that are a bit more bandwidth intensive, something that we would actually need to invest in. And if we've got a little bit of cash there to do that with, that's better. And if the people who pay aren't the people who are contributing, I think that's quite fair, in the sense that they're not putting anything into the site. So, pay a bit, get a few credits, and get whatever you need out of the site.
If you ask me, everyone who is using the site is putting into the site the contribution exactly as we need it. It is a person that wants to look for freely available information, educate themselves, and in the end, eventually vote for better parties in their respective countries. So basically their contribution is their time they spend on the site, educate themselves, and therefore be, at least from my perspective, a decent human being.
I would think a paywall should go towards letting them have access to beta tools, stuff that we haven't released to the general public, but we're thinking about doing and we need a broader audience for, as well as service, direct communication with us in case they want to develop their own front end for it for their own personal use in reading the data.
Yeah.
Dave's come up with a couple of ideas that I think, as far as paywall features that I think have merit. But in the end, I think those paywall features have to be at the far end of you're really getting something. You're not getting any less information necessarily, but you're not getting it presented in the most slickest fucking way, like your chart idea and your timeline idea. Because we'll give you the text data of the timeline that people put together, but if you want the graphical tool that creates the timeline data, then you should be, a $5 a month member, something like that.
To be honest, I
See,
don't you go first.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, see, I'm not a big fan of paywalls standing between better tools. I more think that if they're paying, it's because they already feel the connection to this project, and providing them closer access to us rather than closer access to the data will promote a more open source mentality within our contributors.
Let me ask you this, guys. Does your feeling about being excited about this project, is this a key issue that some of these the organization at some point may want to have some way of generating income besides just advertising?
It basically is a key issue. I personally don't want to get any money whatsoever. I see this project as an opportunity for people to educate themselves, to have freely available information outside of the fucking censoring going on with the libtards. And even though you could opt for making money by offering more quality of life for people who have paid for it, if you play a free MMO, massive multiplayer online game, the thing I hate the most are developers trying to cash in on quality of life stuff. I would actually be in favor to offer everything to everybody equally and make money by the donate button and by crowdfunding, or maybe by a Patreon setup, so people really feel like it can just pay monthly, so our fees are covered. I mean, Wikipedia basically does the same. They just ask for huge donations at the end of the year if their bills are not met, else they just rely on the donate model.
I'm fine with that. My paywall suggestion was literally just a suggestion.
Yeah, I'm with Dave on this. As long as first of all, I don't think it's our little group's decision to make. I think it's going to be like the larger membership when we get enough members to take that vote.
Definitely just putting in my 2 cents.
And when we do that, I mean, I'm fine with whatever that result is, as far as these, whether there's some paywall stuff at the high end that really doesn't interfere with information getting out. It's just that if you want to use these extra creator tools like the timeline charts and things like that, that's really integrated into the site, then I would be fine with that, because I mean, we do want to pay for some bandwidth at some point. We're going to have to. So if I would try to do it without that, but if it came down to that, I would want the organization to succeed and try those kind of things. So I'm fine with the vote either way that it goes, but I was trying to fill you guys out on your opinions.
One question I have, though, are there any organizations out there who actually have a load of money sitting around and who in general support projects who try to advocate free speech or simply educate the masses?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure there are, but we're going to have a hard time because we're actually courting shitlords.
Well, getting sponsors would be kind of awesome. It would solve a lot of problems.
Yeah. Maybe we could get NASCAR to fund us.
I mean, don't get investors. Investors are the people who tell you what to do, but sponsors would be quite awesome.
And that's one thing that I've floated around. I don't know if anybody's heard this, but the idea that advertisers don't get a pick, where their ads show up. No, you either are a free speech advocate and you want to pay us per impression or click, or go the fuck away, because I don't want you telling me you don't want your ad showing up in this kind of content, because then the organization would start, catering to those demands, and I don't think we want to go there. But again, that'll be up to the membership, I think, to find out.
Then I have a stupid question. How exactly does Breitbart finance themselves? I mean, they must have some advertisers contracts, right?
Yeah, there are conservative people in the world.
Yeah, so getting in contact with these advertisers and asking them specifically what they would think about the idea once we have a prototype going, of course.
Yeah. But no matter what, so like people complain about Breitbart and Fox being too far to the right. I don't want our board or whoever deciding, well, we're going to cater because this person, they're a big advertiser and they want to tell us that their ads are only going to show up on pro-feminist videos or anti-feminist videos. I just want something in our original charter that says we don't do that, we can't do it, we're never going to do it. But that's what I want. That's what I'm going to vote for. But I'm 1 out of 77 or less votes. So.
See, I completely agree with that. Allowing advertisers to dictate what you'll do just means that you have a price and you will openly define it in the number of cents you're willing to accept it in.
Yeah, we'll be in YouTube's boat at some point if we're at all successful. At some point, we'll just there's money there, let's go for it. And I think we got to at least consider locking that out right from the get-go and saying, no, that's one of our charter things that cannot be overturned, and...
Yeah, but eventually, if we want to go at the goal, basically, if we want to ever replace YouTube, there's no way around actually hosting content. And that generates a fuckload of traffic.
Yeah, but that's down the line. We can build that in the form of we can take advantage of Amazon's network.
They allow that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, you're just going to be paying a little bit extra for your non-domestic hosting.
Okay. Well, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, we can't stop, like if the embedded content that we're doing now has advertising connections to it or whatever, that we don't care. That's between the YouTube, the content creator for YouTube, and the advertiser on YouTube. But as far as us taking money for a specific fucking type of content, no, that goes against free speech, and my personal opinion is no, it's per impression, per click, whatever it is, it's the same metric for every type of content, and if you don't like it, don't fucking advertise with us. That's basically my argument.
Yeah.
I guess I would have a good name for it then. I mean, YouTube, the name itself just tells you that it's your tube, or we could just name the project Equal Tube. Everybody's equal. Yeah. Would be a nice play with YouTube's name as well.
All right, I think that's all that I wanted to cover as far as today's meeting. I'm going through the old meetings now. I'm not seeing in the Etherpad. I'm not seeing anything that jumps out at me as something that we need to take on at this time. Do you guys have anything additional? I mean, we're going to have to come up with a hosting plan pretty soon. I mean, right now we're going to be on either Dave or Still and Fire server while we're developing the prototype. But then pretty soon we'll want to do hosting, and we'll have to cross that bridge pretty soon, but it doesn't have to be now.
Yeah, if anyone wants access to these servers, I can give them access. They're not particularly accessible. It's all shared hosting. It's not anything special. But if you wanted to toy around with stuff, just let me know on Discord.
Yeah, and then we're talked about GitHub, and I think that as we get a little more into depth with that savvy, then I think the tech team, and as the tech team gets bigger, they're probably both bitter and bigger. We're gonna need to get the tech team probably over to GitHub and really start going to town over there, because pretty soon you guys are gonna get into topics way over my fucking pay grade.
I'm gonna start dragging Dave over there, probably as soon as this project we're now working on together starts.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
It sounds like a good thing, and any of the more technical folks that are interested, get a hold of Sebi, and she'll get you an invite over there. I have an invite over there, so I can drop in and see what you guys are doing, but quite frankly, I don't have any online, other than a little HTML5 and doing a PHP fucking training course. I don't really have any experience on, making a front end work with a back end. So not a lot of help I can give you there, other than I'm willing to, train. And I'll, tell me what I need to do. If I need to learn the PHP, I'll go take that course over, and then set me on a page and answer my questions, and I'll be happy to help out. Anything else?
Not from me.
Not from me.
All right.
Okay.
Well, we'll be here next Thursday, and again, we can talk to each other on Discord by text or voice. Thanks, everybody, for showing up to watch this that did, and suffering through our geeky bullshit. That's it.
Take care.